So, I'm in India 26 years, and my Hindi is terrible. So, please bear with me in English. They asked me to, first of all, they asked, what will you speak on? I said, okay, I'll speak on an integral approach to yoga and spirituality. Then they said, good, but we also want to hear about how you came to India. So, that makes a complicated story. Anyhow, so they want a short speech and a long speech. So let's see what happens. Anyway, the way I came, I'm going to try to tell both of those at the same time. Because our life is yoga. And we go through different stages of growth, actually, as yogis. Originally, in 1977, I was studying architecture, and I loved architecture and design. And my classmate was a genius, and we started studying the teachings of Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff was a mystic from Armenia who went to many Sufi schools. So we decided to leave everything and start wandering, begging our food, living outside. We believed that buildings had some kind of negative consciousness, and we had to beg our food and live under trees. So I did that. Actually, I lived that way for about 10 years after that. I didn't know what a sadhu was, but that's how I lived. So some scars come back and tell you how you're supposed to live, sometimes without anyone telling you. Eventually, I made it to the mountains of North Carolina, and I met my first teacher. He was a Baha'i. He had studied Gurdjieff and many other mystical teachings, but he was a Baha'i and led me to the Baha'i faith. So I want to back up just a minute on that, because in architecture school, we had a class called History of Architecture. It was a really dynamic class, and you could see in art and architecture, sometimes geniuses come along. Sometimes at the height of cultures, great geniuses come along, and they reflect the divinity. By being such a great genius, you experience that divine presence from their art or from their music, because I was hearing it in music also. So that was actually my first opening to the presence of God, was God being manifest in art and music through great works. Now, many people experience that in different types of music, actually. They find someone's very inspired and it reflects that divine nature through their music. And yet not all these artists are psychologically, or they're not developed in other ways fully, and some of them have dysfunctional lives in certain aspects. You know, like there's great artists who inspire many, and yet their lives are a mess. And the integral framework, or the integral worldview, integral philosophy, helps us to understand that, because we know from integral psychology that there are many types of intelligence. We don't have one intelligence. We have many lines of intelligence. Like we can have social intelligence, know how to relate to people very well. We can have mathematical intelligence. You know, we can have cognitive intelligence, the ability to learn very quickly. There's many different types, or you can even have athletic intelligence. There are athletes that when they move, that you feel a divine presence in their movements even. So, and we have that sometimes with yogis. We see different lines of intelligence. A yogi can develop himself very far in certain areas, and yet still have issues he's not dealt with. Shadow elements in the unconscious mind that haven't been dealt with. And in spiritual path, we say, you know, we have basically four main yogas. But Raj Yoga, or meditation, is the crucible. All the other yogas are actualized and realized primarily through meditation. And in regards to the lines of development, so someone can be able to enter into samadhi at will, and there are people like that, gurus who go to the West, and they're highly advanced in many ways, and yet they get into scandals, because they don't know how to behave, or certain things in their unconscious are not dealt with. Certain desires are hidden. Because one thing that meditation generally does is it tells us not to look at the mind. We're negating the mind to only look at pure consciousness, the undifferentiated consciousness. So, in places like India or Tibet, where you have a very loving, supportive environment growing up, you may not have so many shadows. But in many Western cultures, where the society has become fragmented, and you don't have that kind of structure, family structure, to give psychological support, you may have shadows that are not dealt with, and you learn to meditate, and you're not looking at them. And a lot of times we want to hide the shadows. We don't want to deal with them. Or we like them. We want to own them. So that was one of the beautiful things that really helped me with the integral framework, was that we can have different types of intelligence, and these intelligences actually expand. All types of intelligence, as you develop that intelligence, it's like a spiral that expands greater and greater to infinity, to touch God. So you can actually touch God through anything you do if you develop it fully. That's why Gurdjieff used to say, any person who learns a craft or learns a skill and masters it is eligible for the spiritual path. Because they focus the mind and apply it. So anyway, I wandered, and then I met that teacher. I love the Baha'i faith, but one of the things about the Baha'i faith is they say that the soul is created at conception, but it's eternal, which makes no sense to us. Because that's which is eternal, is beyond time. Eternal doesn't mean infinite time. It means beyond time. So it can't have birth. And so I started looking at people who are born, some are born geniuses, some are born handicapped, some die at birth. So what kind of God would that be that creates people like that and doesn't give everyone the same chance? And we know within our being that we're created in the image of the divine. We have complete free will. We can create our future in any. That's the beauty of this life, is we have complete free will. Every possibility is within our hands. No one can make us do anything in a sense. We can create our own future. So I left the Baha'i faith because I realized that reincarnation was the only explanation for how people are born differently and develop in different ways. And I went out west in America, and I started living in parks again, under trees and stuff. And finally, I found my way to Yogananda's ashrams in California, Paramahamsa Yogananda Self-Realization Fellowship. Before I came there, one day I sat and I said, okay, they say you're supposed to meditate. So what should I meditate on? So the breath is always there, I said, and I hear these sounds in my ears, and I feel these currents moving in my spine. So those were the things I chose to meditate, but no one told me. When I came to Yogananda's ashram, and I joined the ashram there, I took initiation into Kriya Yoga. That's what Kriya Yoga basically is. It's more developed of that, but it is those three things primarily. So I'm a strong believer in the Kriya Yoga that comes from Babaji, that Babaji gave to Lahiri Mahasaya back in 1863. And many gurus came from the lineage of Lahiri Mahasaya. And one of the great ones, of course, was Paramahamsa Yogananda. And the thing about Kriya Yoga is, it's like Lahiri Mahasaya said, in his path, he doesn't need flowers. He doesn't need a temple. He doesn't need deities. Because the prana becomes the God. We revere prana Shakti as everything, really. Because that is the first thing coming out of the ultimate reality of Brahman in vibratory form is prana. Lahiri Mahasaya said, when prana is vibrating, it is mine. When it's in its original state, non-vibratory state, it is self, Atman. And that's a very liberating understanding to realize that this mind is not real. It is only vibration. Only the self is real. So if you stop taking the mind so personally, my mind, my thoughts, and all these relationships you deal with in your mind, and realize actually it is the universal mind, the Mahat. The universal mind is what is manifesting as all of these minds. The universal consciousness is what all these Atmans are. When we get away from this individualization of our sense of self and the mind, it creates a large space for freedom and a large space to connect with other minds and other selves, which is what we want to do. Yogananda always talked about the breath. He said, when we do a practice like Hamsa from the Upanishads and from the Vijnana Bhadava from the Tantras, when we practice Hamsa with the breath, or even just watch the breath, the prana starts to slow down. When the prana slows down, the heart slows down, because behind that heartbeat is prana. It's the movement of prana. And the mind slows down because of the same reason. It's just movement of prana. So that is the great secret of a Raj Yoga form of pranayama. In Hatha Yoga pranayams, they're focused more on the physical breath, doing Anuloma Viloma, Nadishudana. I mean, Vastrika is not really a pranayama, it's a breathing exercise. But when we do these pranayams to force the breath, or force the prana into Sushumna, that's how Hatha Yoga works. It's a physical manipulation of the breath to force the prana into the spine. In Raj Yoga type of pranayams, it's not so much about a physical manipulation of the breath, it's about placing the awareness directly on the prana. So you're using your own awareness on prana to do pranayama. And that's a much higher form of pranayama. It works much faster, much more direct, because the mind is supported by prana. You put your awareness there, it stabilizes. You enter into the prana, the mind goes down into the heart, and you enter into stillness and pure awareness. So that's the basis of Kriya Yoga. So there are many different people teaching different things about Kriya Yoga nowadays, and many of them are not what Lahiri Mahasaya taught. Because most of the things, if you don't look at the tradition coming from Lahiri Mahasaya and other people teaching what they call Kriya Yoga, it's fine, it's just a name, of course, they can call it anything. But the techniques of Kriya Yoga, you don't find it in any Indian scripture. They're an oral tradition. much higher than what most people know about pranayama. Like spinal breathing is a very high pranayama, and Kriya Yoga builds from that into a much greater structure. Sometimes you can just, if you want to experience a little bit of Kriya Yoga, place your awareness in your spine, and as you breathe, you don't change your breath in any way. As you're breathing up, try to feel a warm, tingling sensation in your spine. As you breathe down, a cool, tingling sensation in your spine. If you can feel that, that is the prana. You're actually feeling prana. So once you learn to identify that feeling, you can start to feeling it in your hands. You can project it to others for healing. One of the easiest places is back here in the medulla oblongata, because this is not the chakra. This is the chakra. This is a reflection of this chakra, of the Adya chakra. And this is one of the most powerful places where you can feel the prana. And even if you just place the awareness there on the prana in the back of at the base of the head in the back, that in itself will bring stability to the mind very quickly. So I was in Yogananda ashram. Let's continue. And I had just officially been accepted. I had been there 4 years. They don't accept you so easily. They make you go through, it's not like India where you just enter the ashram. It's more like a Catholic monastery or something almost. So, for the first few years, you're not allowed to read anything but Yogananda once you're a monk. So just before entering, I thought, okay, I've heard about the Yoga Sutras. I should at least read something of the Yoga Sutras before I go in. So I went to the Bodhi Tree bookstore in Los Angeles, California, picked out the first book, and it was by Swami Chidananda, Shivananda Ashram, the successor of Swami Shivananda, the Divine Life Society. And I found Swami Shivananda's book on Raj Yoga, and I recognized Swami Chidananda. I had never met him, but I recognized him. I knew that I had been with him before, and I told the board of directors and Sri Dayamata, the successor of Yogananda, and eventually she said I should go to India to meet Swami Chidananda, that they had the greatest respect for him. He's a great saint, and they love him very, very much. So that's how I came in 1991 to India, and Swamiji accepted me into ashram. I served him for some years, and then I started the audio-video department to preserve Swami Shivananda's movie films, audio recordings, photos, and all of that. And then was Yoga Acharya there. In Shivananda ashram, Swami Shivananda wrote close to 500 books. And on every subject of spirituality. And we had many different types of teachers, from pure bhakti and puja to Raj Yoga, more oriented towards non-dual, Advaita, pure Advaita teaching. Swami Brahmananda would never talk about any personal matter if you ask him a question. Always back to that Ramana's kind of, bring it back. Who is asking the question? So to inquire into that self of who am I? I kind of stayed away from the Advaita teachings in the beginning because I felt I needed to do my practice, my sadhana. And sadhana is dualistic. It's process. If you go too far into the Advaita, you may not feel you need to do sadhana anymore. You have to be careful. So then later I moved into the forest to do my practice more, and somehow something just opened. And finally I just assimilated. I understood internally Vedanta. Then later, somehow I got introduced into the integral worldview. And that pulled me even to a different perspective. The integral worldview is only being able to arise now in this culture, in our cultures. Because the integral worldview it's a spiritual perspective on reality, but it acknowledges the time aspect, which traditional spiritual teachings, religions, do not honor time. They're purely transcendental in their perspective, and the phenomenal existence is considered not real, which sometimes has created problems in India when we went too far into the neti-neti, or in the Shunyavada school, like in later Buddhism. But that creates a problem in Vedanta, for example, because in Vedanta they talk about the subject and object duality. And the point is to bring the subject and object back into union. But they don't understand how did the subject and the object get separated in the first place. They don't understand it because the growth from infancy to adulthood is developmental. And traditional spiritual teachings do not focus on the developmental aspect of anything. That's why these instinctive emotions that are part of the evolutionary framework that build the animal kingdom, like self-preservation, the need to reproduce, all of these things, those are very important. And traditional religions don't understand evolution. They don't understand development. So these emotions tend to be called sin. They're evil. Or even the mind. They say destroy the mind. The mind is the enemy. I've never known of any sage who didn't have a mind. My guru had a mind, Swami Bodhichitananda. Swami Shivananda had a mind. It's not the mind that's the problem. It's identification with the mind that's the problem. You need a mind. And you need all these instinctive emotions too. They're your friends. You're a human. You have to embrace your humanity as well as your spirituality. Otherwise, you're having a struggle. So the beauty of the integral framework is, and the reason it's only able to arise now, is science has given us a new vision of reality. In many areas of studies, one area is cosmology. To know that the universe has an age and that it started at a certain point. And to see the development of the universe, how it unfolds in stages, is really a spiritual vision in itself. The universe is a sacred place. It is that Brahman manifesting consciousness. So that's one of the other areas in Vedanta where I think they sometimes have a misunderstanding, because they say all of this is Brahman, but nobody really believes it. It's also neti-neti. And if all of this is Brahman, and it's changing and growing, which it should, you know? The universe, when we talk about evolution, there's three divisions of evolution. There's cosmological evolution, which is how the universe unfolds. There's biological evolution, which you know about from Darwin. Darwin was only biological evolution. There's cultural evolution. Cultures evolve through certain definite stages because a human evolves through certain definite stages, and culture is only an aggregate of individuals. So if you look at developmental psychology and see this, the baby coming in the beginning, the baby doesn't have a subject and object split. It can't differentiate between itself and the external world. It's because of touch, pain, all of those things. Hunger makes it start creating separation between its mother, and the world. And that is the beginning of the healthy ego. The ego is not an enemy, dear friends. The ego is your friend. The dysfunctional ego is a problem. But dysfunction gives the fuel to grow to higher stages of growth. If we didn't have dysfunction, we wouldn't have unhappiness. And it's the unhappiness that makes us want more, something better. So first, with that infant has to have this separation, and that sense of self, individuality, needs to solidify. And that process through different stages takes until it's an adult. And once that gets solidified as enough as an adult where they have separation from their parents, they can stand on their own 2 feet. But then it starts getting dysfunctional because if it's too focused on itself, how can it expand? So the expansion of the sense of self beyond me is what the spiritual life is all about. But all that came before is necessary. I've known people who did not have a fully developed sense of self. They can't function properly because they don't have a center of gravity. And anyone can influence their mind. They're susceptible to being influenced very easily. So, this universe, when we talk about the unfolding of the universe, or our unfolding, we talk about, the 5 koshas. Everyone here knows about the koshas. 5 koshas. Well, they may not. You're a yogacharya. So, in Samkhya philosophy, it says, you have 5 bodies. And of course, Vedanta accepts much of the Samkhya philosophy as its framework. Because Vedanta, in a sense, doesn't have a cosmological view. It's Samkhya that gives a cosmological view to Vedanta. It says you have 5 bodies. You have the physical body, the Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, the pranic body, the Manomaya kosha, the mind, the Vijnanamaya kosha, or the higher mind, the discriminative faculty of the mind, and then the Anandamaya kosha, which is called the bliss body. It's where all of the seeds of your karmas are stored. So from birth to birth, from life to life, and from kalpa to kalpa, those seeds stay there. So you can't get away from this illusion of the universe. Your seeds are still stored in the Anandamaya kosha. So that's how the universe unfolds according to the koshas. First is the geosphere, the physical side of the universe. Then the plant kingdom. Plant kingdom is the pranic aspect of the universe. Then the mind, the lower mind, or the Manomaya kosha, is the animals. And then the Vijnanamaya kosha is supposed to be man, of course. So we go in between the lower mind and the higher mind quite a bit, So if there's 5 manifestations in the universe of the koshas, those 5 bodies, where is the Anandamaya kosha in the universe? In the manifestation of the universe, where is the bliss body? That's what a Jiva Mukta is. A liberated saint is the full manifestation of the universe. It's fully Brahman, fully manifesting completely in the universe is a Jiva Mukta. So in that regard, I want to ask you a question. I'd like to ask you, anybody who would like to answer this question for me. If Brahman is perfect, why did Brahman need to manifest the universe? That is the question. So, I think I've covered basically what I wanted to talk about. I now have an ashram above the Nilkant temple. Some of you may know Nilkant Mahadev in Uttarakhand. It's 25 kilometers up from Rishikesh, on the mountain overlooking Rishikesh. And there's a Parvati temple above Nilkant, and Jil Mil Gufa, so there's some Babas up there, so my ashram's there. I lived in the institutions for 16 years, Yogananda's organization and Divine Life Society. I'm a Swami of Divine Life Society of Shivananda Ashram. But they talk about nonviolence. So I said, well, you talk about nonviolence all the time, and look at the way we're living. We're living in a violent way towards the earth. And we're preaching nonviolence. You know? So the ashrams really need to change the way they run their big organizations. You know, before Vivekananda, we did not have these big organizations. He's the one that started this. They were gurukulas in the forest, living eco-friendly. Truly. And I hear eco-friendly all the time like it's some fashion thing. It's like in style now to be eco-friendly. And yet everyone has electricity from the power grid. They don't live eco-friendly. If you're connected to the power grid, you're not eco-friendly. If you're using plastic all the time, you know, I don't have an electric connection. You don't need an electric connection. I have 8 solar panels and a wind turbine. I have all the electricity I need. It's not hard. It's not hard to live eco-friendly, truly. And it's really important to do this now, because what are you going to give your children? What this planet, their children. In the Vedas, we talk about, 6 generations or 4? We talk about if somebody becomes a saint, how many generations forward, and how many generations back their family is blessed. If there's
7 actually.
Is it 7?
Yeah, they say 7.
So if you think about 7 generations, what are you giving the next 7 generations in your behavior towards this planet right now? Your family, your future family, are they going to be able to survive this place? You know, the earth doesn't need us. We need the earth. The earth will survive. But possibly, there's 2 choices. Either we don't survive, or we radically change and when you radically change, it's because you see the world in a different way. You have to wake up. And we raise enough people up into the ideal of yoga that yoga gives. Yoga is a way of life, it's not postures. Anyway, does anybody want to ask anything or anything before I sit back down? Okay. Then I'll sit down. Thanks.